Heyo fellow Dragonborn, Tato Genesis here, with another Caedo's Countdowns. If you didn't catch the daggers countdown, you can see it right here, but that was the first indicator that we're dipping back into Skyrim just for a little while, and going over the most popular weapon category in the game, and that would be one-handed swords. The criteria for this countdown will be they must be unique, one-handed swords, so get those basic craftable swords out of here. And the second criteria is going to be base damage, so higher the base damage, higher on the countdown. If it's your first time here, know that I am a guide and walkthrough kind of dude, so you can confidently expect that I'll show you where to find these swords as well. So here we go with 5 of the best slicing, slashing, and stabbing unique one-handed swords in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. We start with the Dawnbreaker, a fan favorite and a beautiful piece of Daedric hardware for anyone's arsenal. The Dawnbreaker is a Daedric artifact, and its base damage begins at 12. The Dawnbreaker has a magical enchantment called Meridia's Retribution. The total effect is that on strike, it will burn its target for 10 points. And if the target happens to be undead, there is a chance to cause an explosion, which turns or destroys nearby undead. This makes Dawnbreaker perfect for going into basically any Nordic ruin, thanks to Draugr and skeletons just being plentiful. Apparently the fire damage that Dawnbreaker puts out can be increased if you gain the Augmented Flames perk from the Destruction School perk tree. Now, one word of warning, if you happen to be of vampiric blood or have a certain vampire teammate, the explosion that the sword causes will deal damage to you and that teammate as well. But if you're not undead, you don't even have to worry about it. To upgrade the Dawnbreaker at a grindstone, you will need an ebony ingot and the arcane blacksmith perk. Now for the location, who's ready to touch some beacons? Don't use your old hand though, just a new hand. The Dawnbreaker is a Daedric artifact of the Daedric prince Meridia, and around level 12 you might find a chest with Meridia's beacon in it. You can also just go to her temple west of Solitude once you hit that point, and you'll be pointed in the right direction to retrieve her beacon and bring it back. Once you bring it back, she'll righteously demand a favor, as Daedric princes usually do. Clear out her temple, and in the final room where you solve Meridia's problem, you will also find the pedestal that holds the Dawnbreaker. Next up is a sword used by Nightingales, a Nightingale Blade, if you will. This weapon's base damage is 14 unless you get it earlier than level 46, because this sword counts as leveled loot. This slick looking blade with a bird on the hilt has a unique enchantment as well called Nightingale's Talon, which allows its user to absorb health and stamina by 25 points upon striking a foe. If you get this earlier than level 46, the weapon's base damage and the enchantment will go down in strength. So I would have advised getting this sword at level 46 or higher, but apparently there's an issue with upgrading it at the grindstone. If you get the highest tier version, it is comparable to a Daedric sword, but is not able to be upgraded at the grindstone. However, if a Nightingale Blade is level 45 or lower, it can be upgraded at the grindstone. So when you get it, it's completely up to you. It is still a decent sword, and if the game lets you, upgrade it with an ebony ingot and the arcane blacksmith perk, just like the Dawnbreaker. Whether you get it as soon as possible or you decide to wait, that is completely up to you. So let's talk about where to get the Nightingale Blade. When you reach the town of Riften on the southeast side of Skyrim, there is so much going on and you are thrust into so many quests that you may forget you're here for a sword. But taking up the quest with Brynjolf in the market square will open the doors without needing lockpick to the Thieves Guild. Then after that point you do need to force your way into doors. It was a door metaphor, or was it a meta door? So late into the Thieves Guild questline, you will meet up with someone named Carlia, and once you complete hard answers, Carlia will give you a former Nightingale's Nightingale Blade. Part of me wonders why there weren't more dragon slaying type weapons for the Dragonborn, because that's what you spend a large chunk of the game doing, if you decide to follow the story anyway. Well, thankfully, the Dragonbane is one such weapon, and is a specially enchanted Akaviri katana that once again falls under leveled loot, so if it's picked up at level 46 or higher, you will have a base damage of 14 with a unique enchantment that deals 40 extra damage to dragons and 10 shock damage to everything else. It's nice that you're getting bonus damage no matter what you fight. Unlike most other shock effects, the one on Dragonbane does not damage magicka. It's just 10 shock damage without the extra effect. It's easy to circle back and be like, well, but 40 damage to dragons, man. I don't need that extra shock damage, it's just for everything else. So if you're looking to stab a dragon, this is a good dragon stabber, is all I'm trying to say. As for upgrading at the grindstone, it's 1 quicksilver ingot and of course, arcane blacksmith. And now where to get it. Dragonbane is found at Skyhaven Temple during the quest Alduin's Wall. This is when Delphine and Esbern decide to help the Dragonborn on their way and head over to the Reach, or meet the Dragonborn in the Reach. Skyhaven Temple is above the Forsworn camp known as Karthspire. You will of course have to traverse that area to get up to the temple, do a few dragon-oriented puzzles, and you will end up inside. And after discovering Alduin's Wall, the first room on your left will contain a chest of Blade's armor, several Akaviri swords on the wall, and on the table right in front of you will be the Dragonbane. Let's hope you came across this while you were acquiring your Nightingale Blade. I'm talking about Chillrend, a uniquely colored glass sword with a unique effect on top. The Chillrend is another leveled loot weapon, and its base damage is 15 as long as you're level 46 or higher when you pick it up. Chillrend has the Frost Feed enchantment, which at level 46 or higher will cause the target to take 30 points of frost damage to health and stamina, and the best part, has a chance to paralyze them for 2 seconds on strike. This is such a powerful enchantment. If you're looking to crank up the frost damage even further, just like the Dawnbreaker with augmented flames, you can get augmented frost in the destruction tree to up the frost effect for Chillrend. Most enemies, minus dragons, can fall prey to the paralysis effect that Chillrend has. Get enough hits in on a powerful mage or a giant, you won't have any problem whatsoever taking him out, as long as the Chillrend has charges. Those are still a thing for this weapon. In a bit of an isolated situation, while testing Chillrend, I found out that it replaces paralysis poison if its own paralysis effect goes off. But that was the only downside whatsoever, and it was just one paralysis taking the place of another. There's still crowd control there. If you're looking to make Chillrend even stronger, with a grindstone, you'll need the Arcane Blacksmith perk and a refined Malachite to boost the weapon's damage further. Now onto the location of Chillrend. In the Nightingale Blade entry, I mentioned the Thieves Guild. Well, you get this through questing with the Thieves Guild as well. When you are given the quest The Pursuit, which is part of the main quest line for the Thieves Guild, you are sent to Riftweald Manor to break in and find some particular notes and plans. After you get into the basement of Riftweald Manor, there will be a display case in here with an expert level lock. This display case contains Chillrend. While you're here, you might as well get the bust of Grey Fox too. Here we are at the omissions, which happen to all be curved swords, or scimitars. I'm going to talk about 3 of them, but 2 of them are in a matching set. Let's go over them. First I want to mention is Bloodscythe and Soulrender. These are the swords of Haknir Deathbrand, a legend you can learn about in the Dragonborn DLC. Bloodscythe and Soulrender have the same base damage of 13, which is a little higher than a scimitar. But what makes them a bit of an outlier is that they must be both wielded for the magical benefits to actually work, severely limiting the wielder on what kind of build they can use. So let's say hypothetically you have Bloodscythe in one hand and Soulrender in the other. Bloodscythe absorbs 15 health and has a chance to lower the target's armor, while Soulrender absorbs 15 points of magicka and has a chance to lower the target's magical defense. But again, both of these effects only work if you're wielding both Bloodscythe and Soulrender. These are magical weapons, and charges are burned even if you're using just one of them and none of the magical effects are actually happening. However, back to the hypothetical, if Soulrender runs out of charges and Bloodscythe still has some, Bloodscythe will still have effects because you're wielding the other matching sword. In other words, if you like one of the swords better, just keep that one charged and don't worry about the other one. The one you favor will still work. Also, the Fortify Destruction trick, which works with most enchanted weapons, does work with Bloodscythe, but doesn't work with Soulrender. So if you have your destruction fortified to 100%, Bloodscythe's charge won't go down. To get both of these, you need to simply finish up the Deathbrand quest in the Dragonborn DLC. I say simply, but there's a few steps. You can start this quest by finding a book in Solstheim called Deathbrand, and the book is all over the place in this DLC. Or simply go to Haknir's Shoal and loot the map off the pirate captain there to start you on your way. Go to the locations marked on the map, retrieve the treasure from each spot, and Gildenhall Barrow will be revealed. The quest will end in said barrow, after which you will have the full set of Deathbrand armor as well as Bloodscythe and Soulrender. The final omitted sword I wanted to mention is Windshear. Having a base damage of 11 doesn't make it the most devastating sword in the game. However, its incredible enchantment that doesn't require recharging makes it a great stun-locking utility weapon. When you pick up Windshear, all it says is its first effect, which is bash attacks made with this weapon have a chance of knocking enemies down. The knockdown chance seems to be 39%, pretty high for an effect like that, but it requires your offhand to be free to bash with this sword. Still, bashing pretty much everything besides dragons off of cliffs and down hills is still really entertaining. I mentioned the bash attack being its first effect because the other, not visible effect is a constant stagger on hit. I walked up to a revered dragon with just Windshear, and he wasn't even able to attack me from the ground due to being staggered so much with Windshear. And thanks to dual wielding being a thing, you can just pair Windshear with your most powerful one-handed weapon and take turns with each hand, just hitting really hard and stunning, hitting really hard, stunning again. Remove your offhand if you want to block, bash, and ragdoll the enemy a few times. It is just a fun weapon. Getting Windshear involves helping out the Dark Brotherhood, and towards the end, during the quest Hail Sithis, you'll be sent to a ship called the Cataraya that is moored in the Solitude Harbor. Get on board the Cataraya, and at the bowsprit, the very front ship tip, the Windshear will be stuck in it. We arrive at the strongest, once again, leveled loot, unique one-handed sword in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and that is Miraak's sword. At level 60 or higher, the base damage of Miraak's sword will be 16, and it comes along with the Absorb Stamina enchantment that'll steal 15 points of stamina on strike. So I like to call this the squishy tentacly sword because of the sound it makes when you draw it, which is gross, and also while it has magical charges for its stamina stealing effect, when swung it'll also just turn into a giant tentacle. But it's all visual effect, it doesn't add range to your swings, just provides a reminder that you can slap around and skewer enemies with the tentacle sword. If you're looking to upgrade Miraak's sword's damage at the grindstone, you can assume you'll need Arcane Blacksmith and an Ebony Ingot as well as a Daedra Heart. Might be good to make sure you have your highest smithing fortification before you go and do this. Daedra Hearts don't come cheap. It's probably good that I mentioned Bloodscythe and Soulrender because this is also part of the Dragonborn DLC. Once you've completed the Way of the Voice with the Greybeards in Skyrim's main questline, some cultists from Solstheim will appear to the Dragonborn, attack, and have a note on one of their bodies, ultimately leading you to Solstheim, initiating the Dragonborn DLC story, where you will learn of another Dragonborn by the name of Miraak. Follow the Dragonborn story all the way to the end, defeat Miraak, and you can recover Miraak's sword from his body. I'd like to know from you adventurers what kind of swords you like to wield, or if you don't like wielding swords at all and go against the current like I like to do. I like to leave the omissions as an invitation too. If you found this countdown useful, entertaining, or both, please do whatever you see fit to show that. Misspell my name in the comments for a chance for it to be read out loud in a video like this, and if you feel like supporting the channel and me and gaining some sick perks along the way, like seeing the hidden unlisted video collection, join the credits with Patreon. Thank you so very much to Wasteland Legends Fen, and thank you for watching. I'm Caedo Genesis, and may you wander Tamriel like you own it.